This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today we have one of our most requested guests ever. Rick Bassman helped put this together. Former WWE and ECW world champion, just finished a big run in Impact Wrestling. Legendary wrestler Rob Van Dam. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Where did you get that I just finished an Impact run? Because I'm not even. Maybe you know more than I do, or you're just going with the headlines.
It was
Yeah.
in the news last week
Dude,
that you
come
were done
on,
with.
man. You know how many headlines have like misinformation? People just grab them, and people, man, I've heard that I'm blind, I can't see out of one eye, I can barely move, and there's all kinds of stuff. I very rarely correct them, and on this one, it's fun having the energy out there and things that come from it. But it would be incorrect to say that what I read, which is that Katie and I that we had contracts that expired, that would be incorrect.
All right, so there you go. Thanks for straightening that out with us. I guess there was already people hoping that they would see you in AEW or somewhere, but I guess for now you're going to be sticking around Impact.
And that's not necessarily true either. It's such a no news kind of a news because I have a different situation than Katie does, and so with my situation, I'm there per show. I mean, we had a few shows ahead on the list of obligations on the schedule before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic nobody was running, and then afterwards made up like some of them, and I'm just not on the TV in October, so after that, who knows? Nobody knows except the marks that read the headlines.
Well, thanks for clearing
It's
that up.
possible.
There was a bunch of fans that wanted me to ask you about your appearance in WWE when you were a kid doing that segment with Million Dollar Man. How did that whole situation come about?
That was just a chance happening. I was in the crowd, and it was at a live event in Battle Creek, Michigan, at the Kellogg Center Arena, and um, everybody knew that it was a TV taping that was going to be happening. It was a non-televised show, but I'm looking through the camera. It's not where I think it is. Bam! Oh, it is where I think it is.
We could see you clear. Don't worry about that.
They were doing a vignette. Yassi was like a new character on the TV show, and so we were used to seeing him for a couple of weeks, proving that everybody's got a price, no matter how low he wants them to go. Eventually, there's a right amount of money to change that. And I was just, me and my buddy ran down to the throw when the lights came on for that part of the show, when the cameras came out, and we were excited. And he just pointed to the crowd for a volunteer, and I just jumped the guardrail and ran in the ring. I was so excited that I was the worst negotiator ever, because $100, I was down on my knees before I finished the sentence, kissing his foot. Uh, I was ready to kiss Virgil's foot. I would have given him change. Looking back, I could have got like $500, because if I would have said, no, I'm not going to do that, and put him on the spot, he would have had to tempt me with more money. That was the whole deal. So, a little regret. Maybe I'll go with that. Sometimes people ask, like, any resentments, any regrets, like what would I change if I could throughout my whole career? Maybe I would have started out a better negotiator back with that opportunity to kiss Ted DiBiase's foot, because I was so excited about it. But that was the first $100 that I made in the business, and out of the business as well.
Have you heard about all this stuff going on with Ted DiBiase now and the trouble he's in?
I really don't know. I heard mention of it, and it was something that I was like, oh, I guess I got to look that up. But I didn't yet. Something with his son. You want to enlighten me?
Basically, I don't know. There's some legal issues with his son. Supposedly, they took welfare money and put it into their ministries, and now the government's going after them because supposedly it was millions of dollars. But as you said, you
Right,
never know what's 100% true on the headlines. So,
right, right. That's it's silly whenever anybody thinks that they know something for fact and then run with it on the headlines because there's a lot of inconsistent information, But anyway, yeah, that's a shame that they're going through something. Hopefully, it'll turn out to be incorrect. I don't know.
and as far as you actually getting into the wrestling business yourself, it sounds like you were a lifelong fan. How did you get hooked up with the Sheik to start training with the Sheik and Sabu?
So at this point, I am bagging groceries at Main Street Market in Battle Creek, trying to try to make enough money and save money to go to wrestling school. And I had visited Killer Kowalski's school in Boston, which I did right after graduating high school. It was an experience, just taking a trip like that. And also, besides the expense, the tuition of the school, I was somehow going to have to figure out how to afford living in Malden, Massachusetts, which was really expensive. But I was determined. I was going to make it happen, whatever. So I'm bagging groceries, and a big 350-pound power lifter comes through there, and I started a conversation with him because, you know, he was kind of striking. I said, "Damn, dude, if I had your size, I'd make a lot of money. I'm gonna be a wrestler." He's like, "Well, I wrestle," and turns out that he was training with the Sheik, and so he ended up bringing me to meet the Sheik in what would be my tryout when Sheik took a look at me in December of '89. Yep, December of '89. It was right before my 19th birthday, and that's when the first time I met Sheik and Sabu. It was in a ring that was in the Sheik's son's mechanical garage in Lansing, Michigan. It was middle winter, very cold, snowy everywhere, and the garage was freezing, and they had cut the ring in half to fit it into the garage. So it was 8 feet by 16 feet. That was my first time stepping into a ring and trying to run the ropes and whatever. I mean, they tested me for all kinds of coordination and leverage and balance, and pulled me and pushed me around quite a bit. And by they, I mean Sabu doing it and Sheik monitoring from the floor. I feel like I've told the story like several times, but it was way different back then than it is now. I had to prove myself first off to even be worthy of the Sheik's time because that meant a lot to the Sheik if someone's going to put his stamp on their career. And also, it was a very onerous situation where if people trained you back then, they wanted you to sign, a contract for a year, 2 years, whatever, that they could control your bookings and stuff because you go and someone does something stupid with you, and then you end up being a laughing joke, and then you're going to say the Sheik trained you. No, fuck that. He wasn't going to stand for that. He wanted to he wanted to make sure that the credibility of his name wasn't compromised, which is a good idea. It's quite different now. I've heard that some people teach like safety first, which is a joke to me. But that wasn't even in there. Safety wasn't even a concern. I never one time got taught or told, she never said, here's how to land without hurting yourself, or here's how to slam a guy and take care of him. No, there was none of that. It was all about grappling. It was about grabbing and squeezing. Anytime someone's back was on the mat, you're trying to pin him. And he had us in this mindset where, we believed that we were in competition the whole time. And it's something that I see lacking nowadays because it's just changed so much. Now it's, it used to be protect the business was the number one rule. Now it's not even a factor. Now it's like, here's what we could do without protecting the business, and there's a reason that a lot of shit they do now no one did before because it didn't fit. So I see a lot of that where they're not in the mindset where they're actually competing because they're all 10 people standing beside each other waiting to catch a guy that hasn't even bounced off the opposite ropes yet. I mean, there's little moments where they're so out of the moment, but anyway, like I said, that was a long time ago. It's definitely changed a lot, and so that's part of what it's changing into.
Were you intimidated by the Sheik at all because he had such a mystique about him back in those days?
Yeah, I had to look him up. Like I had heard the name, but like a lot of people, I was like, "Was that the Iron Sheik?" And I was told he was a top box office attraction in the '60s and '70s, and then learning the credibility, everything that Kowalski School would have had, the credibility, the amount of people that he's trained. The tuition was important, of course, because some tuitions were 4 times what others were. But interestingly enough, Sheik and Killer Kowalski, because I thought I was going to go to his school, they both got trained by the same guy way back in the day too. And so that was interesting. Bert Ruby was the name of the old timer that trained the original Sheik and Kowalski. And yes, I was very intimidated. In fact, the last thing we wanted was for Sheik to get in the ring, which he would do sometimes. He was already at least in his late 60s when I met him. I'm gonna have to look that up and see exactly, but he was definitely an old man that took a while to get up out of the chair. He didn't want it. He was going to make it worth his while because if he got up and got in the ring, it was to liven us up or wake us up. He would get up and he would just stretch us and grab us, slam those big hands into our throat, choke us, back into the corner, like bite on our nose with these big eyes. And yeah, I mean, it was very intimidating. So he would do that, and then afterwards he'd say, "I'll get him," and you'd be fired up, and it worked. Because you'd be fired up, and also you didn't want Sheik to come back for round two.
There's a fan on here wondering if you had control over your bookings, if there's any wrestler or wrestlers in particular that you still want to wrestle in your career.
I don't really have a good answer for that, and that's a question that I've always gotten asked my whole career. And there really isn't anybody. It's work. For me. I mean, I enjoy getting in the ring and showing off, and the art of doing that is um, having the other person in the ring with you a changing factor. Like, hey, can you have a great match with this guy that's 160 pounds, like Spike Dudley, Little Guido from my times, or can you have a good match with a huge guy like One Man Gang or Bam Bam Bigelow, or can you have a match with a guy like you that moves like you, Jerry Lynn or Sabu or Flyer? It's like consistency overall, having to have that factor always changing on you and having no control over it. That has been for me the art of being the whole effing show. When I had the TV title in ECW for 2 years, we'd bring guys in from other companies just because I was going to have their best match they've ever had from Japan or WWE, whatever. So I don't have anybody. I don't watch wrestling and say like, damn, man, I would love to get in the ring with him. I mean, that's kind of weird to me to even think like that. Like, I don't fantasize like that. I think that's more of a fan kind of thing to do. And I know a lot of the boys are still fans inside enough to do that, I guess, to think like, yeah, I mean, a lot of guys want to work with me. I'm a lot of people's dream match. When I wrestle people, They tell me, because I wrestled for generations and inspired a lot of people. So I know I hear that a lot, but I've always said my whole career, if I could choose, I guess, the one that pays the most, main event, WrestleMania, because that'd make me the happiest, getting the highest paid. But besides that, I don't really have a good answer.
Yeah, the fans forget that it's a business a lot of the time, but that's the most important thing as a wrestler, to make the most money for putting your body on the line. Mr. Nice Guy is wondering if you have any memories of wrestling in Corpus Christi down in Texas.
Well, um, I don't want to disappoint you, but it all kind of blends in a little bit, as far as Texas. I have a lot of memories from Texas, but I can't remember in my mind, you know, the big cities, of course, Austin and El Paso and Dallas and um, um, what's Blanchard's area, San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Anyway, yeah. But I don't really remember on the house shows popular Corpus Christi or Beaumont or what town in particular. I think maybe Corpus Christi might have been one where we had a Gold's Gym that we went to. I'm not sure, but I remember like a kid coming up to me at Gold's Gym and said, "My dad tells me that your ponytail reminds him of the '70s," and I was just like, "Tell your dad to fuck off." I was just like, "What a thing to say to somebody." Go tell your dad you told me. Whatever.
That
But
kind of goes into this other fan question. Did you have a favorite town to work in, or was it all just a job for you?
and the part of being a fan was stripped away from me like so early on. Like before I even had my first match, the first time I was allowed in a dressing room, in 1990 in Euclid, Ohio, the Sheik was wrestling Jerry Lawler, this little town outside of Cleveland. And Sabu, I don't remember who he wrestled there, but I was excited first time to be there, introduced as Sheik's student to anybody. But they grilled me and they said, don't talk to anybody, no autographs, no pictures, nothing. And we didn't have cell phones back then. Shut up. We didn't have cell phones back then, but it was obvious that someone would say, "You're one of the boys. If you're gonna, unless someone talks to you, don't say anything, and then just introduce yourself, shake their hand, and don't say anything else." And I was like, "Okay," and I broke in that way, and now it's like so different. Like when I do any like independent shows, like everybody gets a picture with me in a dressing room. And that's just how much it's changed. I think a lot of my decisions might have been different, maybe if I was able to still be like a fan through the whole thing, but instead, it was business, and I don't see how the guys can still be excited like 10 years later to be like, "Oh my God, I'm dressing next to so and so." But I know a lot of the guys do though, and that's great for them because then that must make the job just outstanding, forever and ever, as long as you never lose that in your um, but I always think there's the real world and then there's the wrestling world. And definitely with social media, the lines are crossed, it's blended, and the fans don't know, like what's real and what's not, and they try to figure it out. And it's amusing when they're positive that they know for sure, but they're way off. Um, but that's just part of it. Let me see. What was the question? I went off on something
Well, you
about the
you
Sheik.
answered the question. You answered the question,
I did. Okay, good.
so it's all
Cool.
good. As far as your name, Rob Van Dam, is that because you were a martial artist and a fan of Jean Claude Van Damme?
Not really. I was a fan of Jean Claude Van Damme. Um, he was very inspiring. This was like around blood sport and kickboxer, and during that time, action movies, were hot. Him and Steven Seagal were battling for the box office, and Jeff Speakman came in. The guys would pop up, and it was a really cool time for a kid like me to watch action movies and stuff. And I did learn to do the actual levitated split from watching him in Bloodsport. That was the first time that I'd seen it, and then that was his trade thing. He did it in this movie Iron Eagle that nobody knows about. Iron Eagle or Black Eagle, but nobody even knows about that. That was before he was a star. Anyway, Ron Slinker is a wrestling promoter that I worked for in '91. He had seen me in USWA that summer, and I was just Rob Zakowski, like a few letters off of my shoot name, which at that time I was taught, and this is again, everything everything I guess I'm gonna quit telling you the times are different. You're gonna figure that out. But I was taught that, and that's where I was going earlier too, when you were talking something about money and how it's a business. I was taught you can't eat a belt. So the titles, were props, and then I'd rather have money instead of be crowned with a championship. I was taught it doesn't matter what they call you or what they're doing with you or who you're wrestling. Get as much ring experience as you can for like the first at least 2 years. Just get booked as much as you can. So I had wrestled as the International Patriot, or she called me the Polish Prince, which I didn't like, or Rob Zat, or some different forms of that, International Patriot for El Snow. And Ron Slinker brought me down to Florida. He was opening up a territory in '91. It was I went down there in November of '91. I was so excited because I finished up at USWA, and I was like, boom, I don't want to be home. I want to be on the road. Let's go. Not even old enough to drink yet. I was 20. I jumped the gun and went down to Florida because I had a booking that was like a 4 hour south. I said, I might as well do the rest of the drive. And I was like, let's go. I helped paint the bleachers at the Tampa Sportatorium. I helped hang the ceiling from the roof up there. And Ron Slinker said, I'm going to call you Rob Von Dam. And I was like, okay, whatever. And he must have said, that I look like Jean-Claude, but I don't remember ever hearing that before that, and I put this stuff, it's called Royal Crown, because my hair was short. It's the thickest, greasiest shit. Like you could cook with it. It's something that you get at black people's stores, and they use it in their hair, and it's so thick. And I put my hair back, and Ron would tell me that I think he might have said I was his cousin, Jean Claude's cousin, or something. And the very first time he introduced me at the sportatorium, he wanted me to talk with a Belgian accent, and I'm just this 20-year-old green, really shy kid, but I want to get into this business. So I'm like, I'm very happy to see my fans here tonight, and I was just trying to do my best, but I had been told to tell people that, yeah, you're his cousin or whatever. So I owe people apologies for the early '90s for lying to them, because actually, except for through Adam and Eve, there is no relation. And it's weird to me that people think they're talking to him. Sometimes when they talk to me, they get confused because, I don't remember growing up being a fan of his and thinking that I looked anything like him. Give me the name Rob Van Dam. It's stuck.
Yeah, it's a great name for sure. There's a fan on here that wants to know if you ever went to Naked City after one of the ECW Elks Lodge shows.
I don't know if I did. I don't remember what that is. I guess obviously it would have to be something in New York because it's the Elks Lodge. If it sounds like it'd be a strip club, but I remember Goldfingers, and they had something that was attached to it or downstairs that was owned by the same people. But I don't recall if I went to Naked City or not. I was so young then. Like when I think back to my perception of the world, I was a baby. Like everything was new and exciting to me, back then, and just like mind blowing. And so it's hard for me sometimes to remember, you know, I have people all the time that I don't remember meeting that come up and talk to me like, oh, come on, dude, we've hung out dozens and dozens of times. I'm like, oh, what's up, bro? But, you know, that happens.
There's a fan on here that wants to know if you have a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, like your top 4 or 5 wrestlers.
Uh, well, I'm going to go with the era from when I was a fan. And, you know, Hulk Hogan. Well, Hulk Hogan's always like I grew up on Hulk Hogan. He was always the man. Even sometimes as a fan, I preferred the heel, wanted the heel to win. Looking back at it, it was still, you know, Hulk carrying all that load. So Hulk's got to be on there. And I'm just going to make it easy. Instead of thinking who was over back then, because I think it was mostly just Hulk, I'll go with the top guys from there that I could think of. How many? What is there? 4? So we got Hulk. Let's put Stone Cold, The Rock, and shit. Well, those ones are kind of easy, and then all of a sudden it's like, who else? Oh, Cena. I mean, there you go. Those are the top guys that, as far as I know, drew the most money during the times that at least stick out in my mind right now while I'm answering this. So.
You did some training with the Ultimate Warrior at one point. He was one of those big money makers back then. What was he like to hang out with?
Um, he was very cool. You know, I was a huge fan of his when I was younger. You know, I have pictures of me wrestling in front of people at kickboxing shows, and this is how I got into kickboxing. And me and my buddies, we would choreograph matches, which I bet we were pretty good, but I can't find any footage of it. But I do have some still pictures, and I painted my face, and I put, you know, I tied my arms up, and I called myself the Battle Creek Barbarian, and I was really inspired by him. He was a huge part of my passion for wrestling, and so it was amazing to me when a mutual acquaintance told me that he really respected my work. He wanted to come into LA and he wanted me to train him because he was getting ready to wrestle again for the first time in 10 years, you know? And I was like, fuck yeah. And I was like, but make sure I can record him. I want to do, because I was doing this RVD TV, which I still have like on my YouTube page. And I like to interview people. And so he agreed to that. And I didn't know him, you know, at all. I'd worked one show with him. I was surprised that he even remembered me because I was on the undercard in Vegas one time. And his wife, after he died, told me, you know, that I don't know if you remember or not, but you guys did a show at the Aladdin way back. I was like, of course I remember. Ultimate Warrior was on the show because it was a Vegas promotion. And Warrior was a huge star to have. And anyway, his wife said after he passed, you know, you stuck out to him at that show, and he always kept watching you after that, you know, throughout the years. And he would always tell me when you were doing really good, he would say, see, look, see RVD, watch him. I told you, man, watch this guy, he's good. And man, that was just like so touching to know that. Like, it's incredible how full circle all the energy in the universe, how it all works. It's so great. You know, back when he was alive on that day, you know, the training session was not remarkable, you know, because he was like, he wanted to get in there and run the ropes and do a lot of stuff. I put him through my stretch, you know, and we ended up doing very little, I think, actual wrestling. But I do remember I do remember I told my friend who was in the back seat, and this is on the drive to the school. I picked Ultimate Warrior up from the airport, and I've taken him to San Bernardino to the wrestling school up there. And I told my friend who had a camera in the back, I said, dude, when we're hitting the highway, I said, I'm going to light up a doobie. I roll the window down, I'm going to light up a joint. If Ultimate Warrior, I said, if he says something and freaks out, make sure you record this. Because at that time, he was known for exploding a couple people at public functions. And I wasn't trying to set him up or anything. You know, I respected him totally. I just wanted to capture if that was going to happen, if we are going to have that conversation. You know what I mean? And I rolled the window a bit. Boom! I'm driving down the road, and he looked over and then he just says, "Do you smoke every day?" I said, "Yeah." And then like we just started talking about it. And he was just as cool as could fucking be.
So you couldn't convince him to have any, I guess.
I'm losing you when you transition back to you. I missed the first part of you.
So I guess you couldn't convince Ultimate Warrior to have any weed with you.
No, but I hate people that are pushy anyway. It's like I give a fuck what anyone does, you know. But I actually started from giving into peer pressure. Come on, hit it, you prima donna. It's not gonna kill you. We all hit it. Like I actually did smoke the first time because all the older wrestlers put that on me. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's for me. It's just like, you smoke? No, okay. Boom.
There's a fan that wants an update on RVD, CBD, and UAPC.
So with RVD CBD, it's doing fantastic. You know, I've always been an advocate for marijuana. People that don't know that must be brand new to me, because I think I started advocating around 97, 98 when I was first in High Times magazine. I've always felt like it could help so many people. It's the most resourceful plant on the planet. And the more I was learning, I just felt like, man, people need to know this, because I was taught that marijuana is a dangerous hallucinogen like heroin and acid, which it's still scheduled as a controlled one substance with heroin and acid today by the federal government. Cocaine and meth are Schedule 2, which actually means safer for you. And people don't know that the federal guidelines are that fucked up, but they are. That's the Controlled Substance Act from 1970. Richard Nixon made it, and we've never changed that about marijuana. But now the majority of people, I think, know marijuana is safe. Majority of people think it should be legal. We have like 33 states, I think, and the District of Columbia that have some kind of medicinal program, while the feds still say it's got zero medicinal value. So we're not there yet. But, you know, because it's illegal to study the plant, we've only known about THC forever and ever. You know, marijuana makes you high, but as they're starting to legalize it and we're starting to study it and it's in that gray area, we're finding more out about it. So a few years ago, we were able to separate the CBD. So there's THC and then there's CBD, very much alike, but some of the symptoms that you don't like about the THC experience, the CBD omits those. Great. So now you can have just the medicinal part without loss of concentration or munchies, whatever. I mean, there's over 100 cannabinoids, which are elements in the plant, and we're only talking about a handful of them now. People are starting to hear about CBG, CBN. There's very few. We have so many to go, and we'll be able to separate all these different elements and be able to get more of a desired effect by leaving out the undesired effects. So it's awesome. And so the whole CBD experiment is that, and it is an experiment. You gotta experiment to figure out what your dosage is, what's right for you, because there's no daily recommended dosage by anybody. You know, some people tell me 20 milligrams a day. Some people take 300 milligrams a day. Quite a big difference. So when you look at the container of what it holds, you know, like my CBD pain cream has 3,000 milligrams in a 4-ounce bottle. That way, if you're taking 300 milligrams, it's still going to last you, 10 days. If it's 500 milligrams and you're taking 300, it's not going to last you at all. Unlike pills, the strength goes by the whole container. That's what's in there. So the 2-ounce bottle has half the amount, and then the 1-ounce bottle has half of that. So we have 3,000, 1,500, and 750 milligram creams. And I have tinctures, and I have CBD flour, which it's just like, you think about like when you grow the plant, and then the more you grow it, you grow it so that it has less marijuana, and it's more dominant in CBD or CBG, whatever you're going for, generation after generation, and you make it so that it's dominant in the CBD, and then it comes from the flower. That's what we call full spectrum, because nothing was taken out of it. It was just eventually made. But the whole thing is great. It's great because I'm helping people. Like, all the feedback that I'm getting from people is like telling me like I help their lives. My pain cream really is the best that I know of. I use it myself every day. Uh, I have like what is it, torn rotator cuff that bothers me. I put that shit on and it quits hurting. The pain will come back later, but there's a science behind it. We have our own internal system. It's called an endocannabinoid system, and that's what we use to heal ourselves, and do a ton of other things. It's in charge of a lot of operations, but we can manipulate that, by taking the CBD or THC or whatever. But it's the endocannabinoid system that tells it to heal. But my cream has this menthol that it's that cold burn, so right away you feel it working, you feel it soothing, and it helps bring blood circulation. I'm proud of my stuff, and the main drive behind it, the reason that I really wanted to get into CBDs was because of the science that I believe, and we're finding that CBDs and CBGs are good for the brain. Neuroprotectants, and that's where my interest is, because after having so many peers either overdose on prescription drugs or take their own lives because they were depressed, it always seems to be from head trauma, from concussions. And I did this movie, Headstrong. It's a documentary on Amazon, where I get really personal and let people into my real life, where I'm looking into my head and seeing what kind of damage I have. And that helped so many people. Like, the feedback I got from everybody saying, man, no one wants to talk about concussions or depression. And like, I just feeling people open up and feeling like I was helping people, that led me to want to do RVD CBD. And although I don't have the brain formula right now as a product, I'll always be working on that until I get it, and then I'll always be looking to improve it with further research. And I do all kinds of research, both with different kinds of marijuana and CBD, and also with different brain formulas. I'm always doing experiments and myself. Life is an experiment, basically. So trying to keep track of how everything affects you, because it affects everybody different, and learn more about you too. But they're saying CBG can actually regenerate dead brain tissue. That's where I thought, you know what? I bet I don't have a lot of red tape to cut through. If I can put the formula together and have the scientists do it, bam, and have it approved. And if I know that it works on me, works on my friends, if I know it can help some people, then I'm interested in that. So that still is my drive, and will be. In the meantime, I'm always adding new products. It's RVD CBD. It's at rvdcbd.com. We just got gummies this week, and RVD rolling papers are available there, and we'll be doing vape pens. I'll be doing THC products, state by state, with different licenses. It has to be grown there. There's a lot of laws to it, but I'm helping so many people. I'm looking at stopping anytime soon. It looks like I'm going to be putting more and more energy into that, and so I would say just keep your interests invested where they are, as far as counting on RVD's plans, because that's where I'm at.
Eric Head has a similar question to that on this topic. What's been the hardest part about being a pioneer for marijuana in athletics for you?
I guess the pushback would be the hard part, because like when I started really talking to people about marijuana, everyone was saying, "Rob, shut up! You're gonna get yourself in trouble. Don't do it." And at the time, I was watching everybody smoke cigarettes. The wrestlers too. A bunch of them would go outside in a big group and smoke cigarettes. And then there was some of us that break off and smoke marijuana. But I knew that where marijuana isn't poison enough to even kill anybody. Like there's not a level of toxicity in the flower to even do that. And I was reading cigarettes are killing 1 out of 2 long-term users. 50% of cigarette smokers are dying. I felt like I gotta tell people this. You know, they don't know. I go to the airport, everyone's smoking outside the door, and I gotta breathe. And I feel like, ugh, and my lungs lock up when I'm around cigarette smoke. It's like a painful kind of locking thing that happens. I've always figured that maybe I'm allergic to it, but then how could anybody not be? Because it's got, you know, formaldehyde and paint thinner and all kinds of shit in it. But then I don't know. I mean, there's certain like hookahs I've not had a problem with that could be smooth. I've hit cigars that, you know, could be kind of smooth, but anyway, you know, the tobacco, the nicotine, all those chemicals and shit. I felt like it was worth people pot shaming me because it was something that I knew, and it was my own priority system. I cared more about the truth of marijuana and helping people than I did about ignorant people that weren't willing to learn, you know, and they still are. Do you know how many people in my career, fans, have written that they think they're going to watch me die because I'm a druggie? And how many of those have fucking died before me? I'm going to outlive everybody. And they have no fucking idea because their perception is so off. And it's just ignorant. I found that mostly throughout my whole existence, the pushback with being RVD is that people don't understand you because you are one of a kind. Totally worth it. Sometimes I try to explain, sometimes I try to help those who are interested in hearing me. Otherwise, no. Now I'm doing an interview. It's easy to talk and share insight. But you ask anybody that knows me and spends time with me, I'm the quiet guy. You know, I feel above some of the ridiculous conversation that I see forced between people that must be lonely and are communicating, explaining things that they should keep in their fucking head. You know, it's with marijuana. With marijuana, though, there's always been some support. I got in with the right people, Marijuana Policy Project, and then they were booking me so I could speak to colleges or whatever. In the meantime, I was always trying to help people learn the truths that I'm finding out. I said, you know, they say it's the most. They have a Schedule 1 controlled substance listed with the most dangerous drugs, but yet it's not even. It can't even cause fatality. Like you smoke. If you smoke and smoke and smoke, and you smoke too much, you'll take a nap. Like that's what you're looking at. And people are like, well, I never thought about that. And I have doctors, I've debated with doctors that tell me, oh yeah, people have overdosed. And I'm like, please give me these cases because that can help me educate people. Oh, well, they're in the medical journal. No, they're not. I had one doctor tell me, well, I know 2 people. He said Bob Marley and Bruce Lee. I was like, you're serious? I couldn't believe he was serious, but he was, you know. And just one thing I'll share real quick. You know, my evil ex, she had cancer, and one time I was at the cancer treatment center, and they were doing a dietary seminar. Someone was on stage talking to all the patients about their nutritional goals, what they could do to try to achieve those, you know. And this lady raises her hand. This old lady, she says, you know, she had cancer, right? She says, I can't, I'm wasting away, but I can't really eat and I feel weak. I try to force it down. Do you have any advice? And the lady on stage says, well, you know, there's little tricks you can do. Like you put evaporated milk and you sprinkle that in your food. It'll give you some extra calories, some bullshit like that, right? And so I raised my hand and I said, what about medical marijuana? And she says, oh, good. I'm not allowed to bring it up, but since you brought it up, and then she proceeds to tell everybody about this life-changing experience that they could all try in a state where it's legal, where you could buy it right down the street, and it's their policy to not let the patients know and to let them suffer and waste away, instead of time that it can help you, with appetite or with pain and discomfort and nausea and all that. That made me sick. And I was like, I know I'm on the right side of the campaign. So it was things like that that would definitely just keep me going and not care about all the haters. There's still a lot of haters, that are, and it's not for everybody, cannabis, but you can certainly find CBD around every corner now, can't you? As soon as the government learns to completely control it, then it will be legal federally. But in the meantime, the powers to be that lose money from marijuana being legal, that's exactly why it's been prohibited. Since 1937, it was misinformation given out about how marijuana makes you violent and crazy and just it's a danger to society. All this is so addictive. It leads to dangerous drugs. All this has been pumped out because alcohol and tobacco don't want marijuana to be legal. You know what I mean? Pharmaceuticals, it could replace 80% of pharmaceuticals. Textiles, lumbers, fuel. Rockefeller did not want marijuana to be legal. So there's a little history lesson for you, and I'm part of that history, and I'm glad to be, and I'm planning on putting a lot more energy into helping people now that it's easier to help people because it's more available.
Well, as you mentioned, some of those other drugs have caused a lot of your coworkers to pass away early. Is there any that hit you particularly hard of your friends that unfortunately passed due to issues?
Yeah, for sure. The first one was the hardest for me, and then I kind of got used to it. Honestly, like so many, so many funerals or so many deaths that it's hard. And overall, I mean, I'm 49. Overall, life in general isn't surprising anymore, which is a good thing, for me. But I'm not dramatic. I'm quite the opposite. I'm more monotone than dramatic. And you're not gonna, whoa, are you serious? That doesn't happen like too often in real life. I feel like I've experienced a lot. And but way back when Louis Spicoli died, I think it was '97. He was close to me. Like Sabu and Louis and I. And Pee Wee, the referee, like we would travel together in the Winnebago, and the three of us were eating handfuls of somas. Louis was the worst, and then Sabu, and then me. I got up to like 30 somas a day during that time, and Louis was eating 100 a day. And then, but I really didn't know, I mean, I'd heard of one wrestler that overdosed, and I didn't know him, but there was talk of Eddie Gilbert dying of somas. That was like in the history that I knew, locker room legend talk, but bam, when Louis died, it hit me so hard. When I look back in my mind, I haven't seen it, but when I think of the footage, we're all standing in the ring at ECW, and I was like, oh, and like I couldn't believe it. He just wasn't going to be there anymore, and I don't think everyone else was taking it so hard. And then time after time, watching the guys get buried, getting lowered into the ground, like right in front of their wife and mom and everything. Like, whew, that's so hard. But after a while, like I don't want to say I got numb to it, but definitely used to it. That's something that fans ask a lot, like especially like if someone sees someone up to me and take a picture in the airport or whatever, someone will go, do you ever get used to it? Like, how the fuck do I not look like I'm used to it? Yes, you get used to it. You get used to everything in life the more you see it. You know what I mean? Your dog gets used to your dog's name because you teach it. You say the name so many times, the dog gets used to it and says, "Oh, you want me to come when you say that?" That's how it is. So Bobby Duncombe Jr. Oof, he was another one of those guys that was close enough to where he would stay at my house, if he was in town. That one hurt a lot. I think about Mike Awesome. Couldn't, that's crazy. He took his own life. A lot of times when they take their own life, they don't tell you the cause of death. That bothers me because it's history, and I am a geek for history and facts and numbers. I love that stuff in my own areas of interest. But for sure, however I go, I want everybody to know exactly what it's from. If I was wrong and marijuana all of a sudden was, killed me, dude, are you kidding? I wouldn't want that hidden. I would want everybody to know. Oops, my bad. Which that ain't gonna happen. And like I said, I'm gonna outlive everybody, and I'm doing it.
There's a fan on here that says his job was to play the White Kings double on Game of Thorns. Good for you. He wants to know if it's too easy to blame a lot of the wrestlers' deaths on drugs.
No, not for me. I mean, yes, it's easy for people to blame the deaths on the drugs, yes, and then say, okay, these drugs are a horrible thing. I've always said drugs are good, abuse is bad, and then let's define that. You could say abuse is any use without a doctor's prescription, debatable, whatever, but drugs themselves got a bad rap. I grew up with Nancy Reagan saying, just say no to drugs. Okay, well, the next time you get your teeth worked on, tell them you don't want any drugs, How about all childbirth are going to happen now with no drugs, surgery. You don't want any drugs for that? I mean, everyone draws their lines, but when someone tells me, I don't do drugs, okay, do you drink coffee? Do you drink alcohol? Do you smoke nicotine? Do you take sugar? I mean, it's just the more you learn about everything, you might not always be okay with where everyone else seems to draw the line, because other people don't draw the line in the same place, and then that's the basis for every confrontation. Is everyone has their own values. So basically, it's easy for the drug to get blamed, which I don't blame the drug. It's easy to blame the head of the WWE, which of course I don't blame. Every media piece that I see, when it talks about the wrestlers dying young and stuff, they always go after Vince, and it makes no sense to me, unless Vince said, hey, here, you got to take those drugs. I mean, he is the standard setter. But besides that, sometimes like the concussion lawsuit, there's hundreds of wrestlers that are suing WWE over the concussion. Some of those guys might have had one WWE match, or they had 95% of their career outside of WWE. It's a lot of it's a money grab, and I'm not saying it's not a legitimate concern. I mean, I'm trying to do my own thing, research with CTE, which, by the way, is way different than just long-term concussion damage or concussion syndrome. Not the same thing as CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Wrestlers are starting to confuse it and say, well, we all got some CTE. No, we don't. That's when your brain is degenerating, wasting away. And again, I'm trying to do my part in helping the education with that, because also, when we find something that helps with that kind of a thing, it's going to help with Alzheimer's. It's going to help with different areas of depression. It's a lot of it's similar related to the proteins that sit on your brain, from the brain chemistry, from the chemistry being interrupted, and so it's all like the same area that we can help a lot of people with. But back to Vince, it's so ridiculous to blame him, and like, I've had hundreds of concussions. I never told anybody about it. I never told anybody if I felt like I could still work, because I was my own boss. That's how it is. And it's up to you. If I can't work tomorrow because my neck really hurts that bad, but that never happened. It happened like once when I blew my ACL, but besides that, I kept it all to myself. And any of the overdoses or uses, I think it's it on the wrong choice. I do. I don't see how you can see it any different. We all have choices, and we all have our own choices to blame for everything to put us where we're at right now. There's always exceptions. I mean, you can say, well, I didn't cause this person to die or whatever. There's always exceptions. When you think about it, life is about making the right choices. Some people are better at it than others. And if it was all about the business, then 100% of the wrestlers didn't get hooked on drugs. Choices, individual choices, and that's what a lot of people aren't that good at. A lot of the fans that didn't have access to us on social media.
Now, apparently, you went on a divorce revenge tour in Colombia, and I had some questions of people that wanted to know What did you do on that tour, and how was the stem cell therapy you had there as well?
Okay, so that's one of those things that just cracks me up. Um, I have a lot of experience to offer. I was married for nearly 20 years. If I ever say anything about the Evil X, then trolls will pop up. Sounds like you're whining. Sounds like you miss her. And they're so, one-dimensional people. But she left in 2015. All right. I don't talk to her, I haven't seen her. I would rather eat a bag of dog poop than see her again, actually. She ended up really turning evil and became a horrible person at that split, decided to just look out for herself and fuck me as much as she could, which whatever. I don't waste much time thinking about it, but I think everybody should have some kind of a source that represents negativity. It's gonna just be like, yeah, I have somebody I hate. As long as I'm not like, oh, I hate her, which I'm not, because my life is so amazing, so wonderful that if I didn't hate her, I would thank her for everything that went down. 2015, dude, and then the divorce itself and paperwork took a little while and didn't get released until the spring, I guess, 2019. So now every picture of me and Katie, especially with some other friends, is always going to go under the divorce door. Like any part of any of us is thinking about it. I forget that I was married, and I call Katie. She's my spiritual wife, so I call her my wife, and that confuses people a lot too, because they wait, which wife? I thought it was divorced. Or is he married? And confuses a lot of people, but she calls her husband, I call her wife, and we are spiritually married anyway, and have an amazing bond, which I never experienced before. Like having someone that actually trusts you and you can trust them as much as you trust yourself. Holy fuck. I wish everybody could find that. When I went to Colombia, that wasn't until September of last year, and I went down there for stem cell treatment, and I got 220 stem cells put into me in Bogota, or it was either in Bogota or it was right outside of in Medellin. It was in Medellin, where all the boys are going, and athletes. They're hooking us up, and I had a hookup. And I had them. I don't even know if I can tell you where all I had them, because I had them put in both wrists, all up and down my spine, also in my spinal fluid to go up into my brain, just in case there's any brain damage up there. I had hair rejuvenation and skin rejuvenation that Katie talked me into getting while I was there. Bunch of shots in the face and sucked, but also my both shoulders. And anyway, it helped a little bit. I get as good of response as a lot of people do, and so I am reluctant to brag and recommend it from my personal experience. But after about 7 weeks or so, I think it was, I got some red light therapy that was suggested, and then all of a sudden, like, it kicked in, and I just felt way better. So I think maybe I would do it again, but I would do it with the red light and any other therapy. Like, they gave me a little oxygen therapy when I got the stem cells, but I got more of that and a lot of other therapy for a couple of days with the red light, and that totally 100% made a big difference. It activated the stem cells. I would do that from the beginning if I did it again. In the meantime, I feel a little bit better than I did, but like, that's the best way that I could put it. There's for sure some things that bother me less, and then there's a lot of factors. I was still wrestling, taking bumps while I was, waiting and letting the stem cells do their thing. You know, there's some things I would do different maybe, but that's how it was, dude. And that's what I was doing in Colombia.
Now, as far as the time when WWE was doing some cross promotion back, I think around 97 with ECW, was there ever any talks for you to join at that time? And if there was, what made you choose to stay in ECW?
Oh, you don't know this story?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So in '97, I I went to a WCW show in Savannah, Georgia, where I was living, and Eric Bischoff offered me a job there. And in that brief little talk, the money was mentioned, with a 3-year escalating guarantee. He's like, I was just thinking this, boom, 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 and then that got all over the. I don't even know if we had internet back then. Uh, if we did, it was pretty new. Otherwise, it got all over Dave Meltzer's Observer because that was the internet before. Everybody would but anyway, everybody just assumed I was going because that's what the boys were doing. They would stay in ECW till they got an offer from WCW or WWF, and then they would just leave. I didn't want to leave. ECW did its first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, and I wasn't booked on it. And Sabu was telling me since at this time in my career, I would still do whatever Sabu said. He was my mentor, and so he would say, "Hey, me and you are the best guys here, and we're at a different level than all these other guys, and boom, boom, boom." And then he would say that all like, "How much are you paying? They're paying you? Tell me you need a raise." I'd be like, "Really?" But no, wait one more week, and then tell Paul you need to pay. He needs to pay you more. You're getting over. Sabu stayed on me like that back then, and whatever he said, these guys sucked. I think they're really good, but they suck. They haven't been anywhere. Boom, boom, boom. That's how it was back then. And I was like, Sabu had me thinking, that Paul's stoked to have me and him there at that point, but I'm not even on the pay-per-view. So I was offended. I don't remember how I let it know, but I was, had the offer and I was offended. People thought I was going. I don't know. I got on the pay-per-view because Chris Candido was hurt. I wrestled Lance Storm, and then afterwards, because everybody thought that I was leaving, they were already sold out. And I don't think we did anything with it. But I got on the mic, said, see you on Monday night. But then I went to Raw instead of WWE, so it was a big swerve. And then Paul pulled those strings, and Paul was saying, this is going to be a short-term deal. We're going to do a WWF just as long as it'll last. They don't want us there. The boys don't want us there. Don't dress in the locker room. Don't leave your bags on a the fuck is the word? Unattended. Anyway, he had us all watching our backs. Like the boys don't like we're outsiders coming in, taking up TV time, beating their wrestlers. Anytime, soon as something ain't right, Rob, tell me, boom, we're out of here. And that's what he'd say every time. I would try and say, Paul, is it right that you want to go? You want to go? If you want to go, just let's go. Just say the word. I got you. We're out of here. We'll grab our bags. We'll meet you out back. And I was like, I'm asking you for advice. It was like that when we were there. But that was one-sided, and I didn't realize that Paul set me up. So one night, there was a line that I didn't want to cross. I didn't want to go under and get beat. And I was like, why would we come in to try to put ECW over and get on WWF's television to try to help our company grow and then get beat by their guys? I mean, what is that proving? What is that showing? And I had a meeting with Vince because I was refusing to go out there and do that. And this is the first time that I even talked to Vince. Like I'd already been there. Maybe I'd done 5 TVs or something by then, and then I hadn't even talked to Vince. And now I'm finding out from Vince that he thought that I was staying. He was like, "Well, I wouldn't have put you on my TV unless I thought you were staying. Of course, I see you as being a baby face, eventually, an aggressive baby face." But and I was just like, what the fuck? Paul's telling me we're here short term and to get ready to jump out the window. And here's Vince saying all along he thought that I was signing with him because Paul had set me up. And when I'm looking for Paul's help during the talk with Vince, Sabu and I are beside each other. We got backs. Paul's over on the other side of the room. I think he was talking to Bruce Pritchard or something, like having their own little talk because, Paul was acting like we were outsiders. I didn't realize that Paul was doing business with them the whole time, even before that. And that's why I was there. It was because Paul was doing business with them. So they weren't enemies. I was told they were so that I would sabotage my own chances of leaving ECW and going to WWF.
Did
Just
did ECW end up owing you a lot of money at the end, or did they square everything off with you?
um, no, I mean they weren't able to square everything. I got taken care of well. I got paid what I was supposed to get paid to wrestle, and my guarantee kept coming in. But there was other incentives, bonuses, merchandise royalties that had really added up that I wasn't getting anything of, and never would get. So that just ended up being a wash, which is what happens when someone files for bankruptcy. But I was in a bad position. He always took as good a care of me as he could.
And for ECW One Night Stand, when you beat John Cena for the title, everyone wants to know your memories of that night. The crowd was going nuts that night. Was that one of the hottest crowds you ever wrestled for?
Oh, for sure. For sure. That was a one in a lifetime experience and crowd. They were 100% for everything that I was for, that I stood for, and 100% against everything that he stood for. So that was great for me because that moment happened because I made that moment happen. You know what I mean? It was my idea to bring ECW back as a pay-per-view and trying to explain to Vince that there's value in that and that people would love it. And then all those people there loving it, and just that energy and just knowing, they were all behind me and wanted our preferred art style to triumph. And I didn't even believe it would happen till it did, as far as me holding the championship belt at the end. I remember that. Like, I wouldn't allow myself to believe that was going to happen until it actually did happen. And it wouldn't have if I hadn't changed the entire playing field by bringing ECW back, where I was the best to be showcased in that kind of exhibition, so that just worked out really great. And because we were bringing ECW back as a third brand, and I was on top of the world, so that was awesome. The crowd was irreplaceable. There's been other moments that had like a similar vibe, only much smaller. First time I was in Belgium, I remember the fans were so behind everything I did. I had the Money in the Bank briefcase at the time, and just the way the crowd was chanting, it was just like a really hardcore ECW crowd. It was so awesome. And I remember them booing Cena too there, and in Wales they booed Cena, and I saw what a professional he was to take that energy and to utilize it and turn it around and have the people cheering by the end of his promo. And so, there's been other experiences that people might not know about, but nothing can compare to One Night Stand.
Did you find that anyone ever tried to politically sabotage you behind the scenes during your times in WWE, or was everyone?
Never, never. Well, I mean, how would I know? I'm not in the office. You know what I mean? And also, I think that's perspective. Because I could look at it as I'm being politically sabotaged because one guy in the office votes down every time someone votes me up. But really, if that guy doesn't like me, for whatever reason, doesn't think I'm the right choice to put in the main event on that night's show, and that person is a qualified judge of that, then is it really political sabotage, or is it just that their agenda isn't inconsistent with my best needs? You know?
I hate to ask you this, but there's a ton of fans on here that want to see your Shawn Michaels impression. You don't have to, but I will be letting them down if I don't bring it up.
Yeah, I'm surprised that so many people appreciated that and laugh at it. It's I've always been able to wiggle my ears. I can do one eyebrow or the other, no problem. my chest. I've always been able to move different stuff. So it's easy to cross one eye and turn the other one, and do things like that for me. But the thing is about that interview that's so popular is that one, I feel like I was a dick for doing that, because what makes it funny is Shawn Michaels is a king, and for someone to openly talk about him and try and bring him down, but that has to happen in society. That's why you can't be up there if you don't expect that. But the universe got me back. Watch the movie Headstrong on Amazon if you don't know, but I had double vision from a shot in the head. It wasn't even a hard shot. It was the lamest shot, and that's what forced me to abandon the agenda of a documentary and change it to being about concussions and just overall the future of my head wellness. But I've had many concussions, and when I think about Shawn Michaels having an eye stuck in, that must suck so bad. Like, I think I would have like the worst headaches. I can't imagine. And so I had to go to vision therapy for a long time. And my deal was that I had double vision. I could see out of either eye fine. When I looked out of them both, I would see double vision. And it was something that I had to deal with. And it made me realize, that to me, that Shawn Michaels video wasn't quite as funny as it might have been before. Not to mention, if it does hurt, the Heartbreak Kids feelings, then I apologize. I saw him one time at the Cauliflower Alley Club, and this might have been before I did that. I don't even know. I don't think, whatever. But I saw he was getting an award at Cauliflower Alley Club, and I've never hung out with them or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we're not in the same place at the same time too much. But when I was him, I said, "Hey, dude, I hope hope you didn't see me being a dick on the internet that caused you any grief." Or I can't remember how I worded it, but it was like, "Well, I don't take anything in the business seriously." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But at the same time, those are my feelings on it that are now all of our feelings to share. How about that?
And of course, the other video that no one shuts up about ever is your Taz story, where I guess you slapped him or something. You asked him to pick a hand.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that story's now become so legendary that everyone talks about it still?
Yes, and no. I mean, we're a bunch of physical guys that all usually have physical violence as the go-to in the back of our head. If we get angry enough, that's the go-to. Is like, well, I can solve this with some kind of physicality, and so it should be something that doesn't even make it out of a dressing room and isn't that big of a deal, I think, really. But but yeah, I mean, a lot of instances that I've seen throughout my career that happen in the dressing room, they stick with people. The stories stick, so I guess they're interesting. So in a way, I can say I'm not surprised that people talk about it still. And at the same time, there's maybe it shouldn't be that way. But, I mean, if there was like, if we had stories for every time we received each other in the ring, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, those are the ones that fans don't know about. Just little things happen, bam, oh yeah, motherfucker, bam. You want to calm down? You want to keep it like that? Like, they never, like, they have no idea how often shit like that happens, because they want to think that we're all just playing together or whatever. But because I look at it from that perspective, I don't think it should be as newsworthy as it was. But and again, at least maybe it can inspire people to be cool and balanced and still get the job done.
Now, you mentioned that the fans think that we're all just playing in there in the ring. Now, WWE, it seems like they're telling their wrestlers in every interview they do to to say that they're storytellers and like everyone's a big family in the back. Do you think that hurts like interest in the product when they constantly break kayfabe like that, or do you think it even matters anymore?
I I personally think that it does. You know, it hurts to me and my values, but I'm not really sure if it's a good thing or bad. You know, I naturally, just because I have the old school foundation, I'm always trying to hold on to what's right to me and point out things that are not right to me all the time. You know, like um, sometimes Katie and I will be watching wrestling and I keep having hit pause. You know, boom, look at this, boom, 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 look at this, look at this. I have a lot of things that are pet peeves. Some of the boys are like tweeting that, which I can't believe. But the business just changed so much. You know, I'll see I don't know. I've seen Shane Helms do it. I've seen Lance Storm do it. You know, where they'll say, this is not the correct way to pile drive somebody. If you want to take, and I'm like, you know, I get it. Things are changing, um, but for me, I'm always trying to hold on to what's right to me. And having said that, I'm not fighting the change. You know what I mean? Like it's changing, and whatever it's becoming, it's going to become. So evolution is necessary. I'll watch and and learn with everybody else where it's going, but at the same time. I don't really have to adapt to that much because I don't think. And at the same time, I can point out where it's different for the educational purpose, wherever it is seen as such.
Now, of course, Road Warrior Animal died recently. You had probably LOD's last most high profile match with Kane as your partner. Do you have any memories of that match and working with Hawk and Animal that night?
I had a little bit of memory of not so much the match itself, you know, except I remember that, you know, they weren't gonna, I don't know, they weren't like overly stiff monsters or anything like that, which pretty sure they would have been years ago. You know, I remember being like easier, but what I remember most is just that I hadn't seen Hawk in many years. I'm thinking 2000. Was it 2000? I don't even know, dude. Trip like so many years ago. This might have. I don't even know I'm trying to put a year on this. 90. It might have been 96 something. 100 years ago, I did a trip in Aruba, Bonaire, and Carousel, and Hawk was one of the main eventers on that. Him and Beefcake were the two top guys, and this 3 day tour was nothing that was promised came through. It was one of those tours, but for a young green kid like me, not only was I having the time of my life scuba diving in the ocean in Aruba, I was working twice a night. I worked on Marty Jannetty, which I don't think he remembers. Um, but Austin Idol, I guess, didn't show up, so I took his place. So I made more money, got to work twice a night, make more money, was having the time of my life. Hawk, Beefcake, they were promised the world and had a horrible experience. So he was very angry, and I was very happy. And we didn't get along then, and we had a moment, and I hadn't seen him since then. And then when Ken and I were working with him, I kind of expected him to, you know, to be that same guy that, you know, he was like angry and, you know, just rawr, rawr. And he wasn't at all, you know, and he was so humbled and I was just like, wow, okay. You know, I don't even remember if I talked to him about it. I probably didn't talk to him about it. I don't know. But either way, that sticks out in my mind more than you know, than than the match itself. I had seen Animal several times at wrestling conventions, comic conventions, whatever. Super nice guy. What a good guy. When I started dating Katie, Katie told me that he had some really nice things to say about me, which I, didn't hadn't had no reason to expect at that time. I'd only said hi to him in passing a few times, I think. Or I guess I worked with Master Kane, but I don't, I doubt that was super special for anybody to match. But he was saying to Katie, that I'm a straightforward dude and I always do the right thing. And I was like, well, good to know, like she told me she delivered messages from a lot of guys that were giving her the approval when we first hooked up, and it was interesting to see how I'm viewed from other people's mouths, because you never do know unless somebody tells you.
Someone wants me to ask you if you were there when Joey Styles supposedly knocked out JBL.
I love that story, but no, I wasn't there. Yeah, Joey doesn't like to talk about it. I always want to bring it up and talk. You're going to talk. He doesn't want to, of course, because he's humble.
And there's some fans on here. You brought up Katie a bunch of times. There's some fans that want to know pickup tips for those of us that like to practice those type of behaviors.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's what I think that I have to offer that a lot of people don't. Guys want to have a chick, okay, but where do you want her on your priority list? Do you want your buddies to be more important? Do you want your job to be more important? Do you want your family and your dog and your other girls to be more important? Because you should have that conversation with yourself, and you should know your own priorities, and then it'll make it easier to have relationships and treat everybody accordingly, and to expect the same in return. So many of my peers live a life on the road and then a complete different life at home, right? The way I see it, their life at home is a complete lie. They have a wife at home, probably taking care of kids, who, as far as I know, is being completely faithful to their husband, treating him, like he's the man of the house. I assume everyone's got their own situation. But it's just an example. So many of the guys I've seen do. But then when they're out on the road and they're living this road life, they do things their wife has no idea their husband does. Drugs or fucking rats or whatever. Complete different life, and then they go home. And so those people, obviously, their job is more important to them, or their road life is more important to them. A lot of things maybe are more important to them in their relationship. Just know your priorities. People don't get to know their own priorities, and it makes life so much easier if you know. This business is something that you're brought up to. You got to eat, breathe, and sleep wrestling. You got to want it more than everybody else. Nobody can love it more than you if you want to fucking do this. And that's just to try to even break in, just to try to break in. Eventually, though, I think you should grow up. I mean, I shouldn't say you should. You should do whatever the fuck you want. But for me, the natural process was that I grew up, and some things definitely are more important than my job. And it's a locker room sin to even say that. But you know what? All these other guys in the dressing room, they do love the business more than me. These young guys are so excited. They can't wait to put their fucking boots on. They've been waiting all day for their match. Guess what, guys? I'm happy to give you my TV time. I'm not, don't have that. And fuck. I forgot what I was talking about.
We got
tag. What was I talking about? Say it again.
I think you're operating pretty good for how much you've had so far. I think
I
you're
forgot.
operating.
I had a point. I don't think I made my point yet, though. What
Well,
were we talking about?
because
Okay, fuck it.
maybe I have much to. Someone's asking on here, did you have?
Oh! Sorry, dude. Look, for you, I remembered. All right. So now I gotta finish. Okay. So I know that so many people that, bitch about their wives when in fact they're assholes and they don't even deserve a good girl. So that always baffles me. A lot of guys are gross. If you really think bros before hoes, that means that you would rather share secrets and have the real you known with your other male um, relationships. I'm not like that. I don't even like being around other guys. I don't even like it when other guys come over to my house. If Katie brings over a bunch of girls, and they're outside taking videos and pool, whatever, dude, that's awesome. But as soon as another guy comes in with his testosterone and judgment and wants to throw his own values around, because guys think their own values are the way they should be. Nah, you need to do this. Here's what y'all do. Fuck that. I don't want no advice. I love my life. Here's the thing. Are you honest? Because I don't lie. That's what I think I have to offer. Katie knew right away when I told her that this I just got out of this shitty marriage. She had I was never her priority, the ex, ever. And we both knew that. And I shouldn't have been okay with that. But I wanted to stay faithful. I wanted to stay a quality husband. I wanted to walk out of it at the end knowing that I did my best. And I did. So I respect myself because I wasn't banging rats, regardless of what she was doing. And now she married the guy that was working on our house for the last 10, 15 years while we were married or something. The Mexican that was painting our outside patio and stuff. And I don't care. I'm glad to be done with them. My point is, I had to respect myself. And when I met Katie and I told her about that I've always been a good husband and that I don't lie, she knew I was telling the truth. And then we have this bond. It's amazing bond if you can share with somebody where the last thing they would ever do is something that would hurt you, and they know the real you enough to know what would hurt you, and the you together is just as important to them as it is to you. That's my relationship advice. If you want a good girl, try and deserve a good girl. I like to be lied to and cheated to and shit like that. Big surprise. There you go. Relationship advice from RVD.
That is great relationship advice. Everyone should listen to that. Just a few more questions here. Someone wants to know if you had issues with Mick Foley at some point.
Never. I can't remember ever having issues with Mick Foley. He's a good guy. He's got a lot of hair on his face. uh, I can't remember. It almost seems like maybe like he might have said something. I said something back. Maybe if that did happen, then it wasn't anything big. And I honestly don't even remember what it was. I never really spent a lot of time around him. When he got the hardcore title, I was kind of bummed, like, man, because I retired the hardcore championship in WWE and they gave the belt to Mick Foley. I was like, man, I would have liked to have had that. I was main eventing shows making that belt mean more than they ever wanted it to, and they're going to give it to Mick. But I don't remember having any animosity, towards him or anything like that. We
And
both represent hardcore, so I'm glad he's a hardcore brother.
of course, you guys are definitely two of the hardcore Hall of Famers without question. As far as being a heel in 2020, 2021, what's your advice for someone that could still be a heel that could be genuinely hated? Is it possible?
I mean, if you if you want to be, I guess if you want to be really hated, then you could just be an asshole. You know what I mean? Like right now, it's about the fans thinking they had it figured out. It's about working to a crowd that thinks that they're smart to everything, but they really don't know where the lines are drawn. But that's who you're working towards. So you give them a lot, and um, I think, that it's okay for heels to be liked, if they're funny. and they, they cheat, and they get away with it, and it's funny. It's, oh, the ref thinks that he hit him with the chair, but really he just fucking hit his own head. And there's entertaining shit like that, but it's not as necessary. I think the way that the styles are changing, I think it's going to be less, babyface shine, heat, come back. I think because everyone's, having like more of a dance off. Not everyone, but a lot of the core of today's wrestlers are more about having a dance off. And I think that heels are as hateable, when as they have been. I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna buy into wrestling, then you're still gonna boo when the bad guy jumps your favorite wrestler, I hope.
And we do cover the UFO topic on this channel. A few people have wanted me to ask, what are your thoughts on UFOs, which basically the government has come out recently and admitted that they actually exist, but what they are exactly is still not really known.
Um, I definitely would not be surprised if we accepted that we're not the only ones in the universe. That wouldn't, it'd be awesome. I would love to have that, like, outward knowledge someday, like, wow, we actually have communication with another planet. And I don't know if I may see it in my lifetime. Fucking, I mean, if you go back 100 years, they never could have imagined cell phones, let alone sending pictures, across the world in a couple of seconds through the phone waves. There's no telling where we'll go, but yeah, it's interesting, that they're releasing some of that previously classified information. It's not something that I dive into. I have areas definitely that I dive into, so I can respect that, but it's not one that I spend a lot of time and energy on. But it won't take a lot to make me a believer. We're very likely just some kind of dust that blew through the galaxy from another planet or something that started this. I don't know.
I'll just slip this question in. Memories of working on the movie Blood Moon, someone wants to know.
So, the Blood Moon was my very first movie that I did, and I had got the part through a tryout in New York. That was an action movie making weekend seminar where we jumped on airbags and shot like fake guns and uh, all kinds of action movie making stuff. We had to read scripts, do some cold reading, and all kinds of stuff. It was over a weekend. It was awesome. I had a great time. And then at the end, you have a little contest. And they wanted me in the movie because at first I had to, the first date that they gave me to do the movie when they called, because it had gotten postponed, I guess. And then they were like, hey, we're going to do it February 6th or whatever. I was like, oh, it conflicted with an important match that I had coming up with Danny Crawford at the Budokan in Tokyo. If you've ever seen that match, it was a very big stepping stone in my career, where I learned a lot. And that was 95 or 96. I guess it must have been 96. Because I was with ECW, and I think, anyway, 95 or 96. And so I couldn't do it. And then they said, well, how about, when you come back, how about if you come up here and stand by, we'll try and get you in the movie or whatever. And I was like, well, I can't do that on my own dime, And they're like, okay, we'll give you this much a day or whatever. And all right, cool. I guess they really want me. They ended up, my first day working there, they put me in the ring with this big dude, King Kong Bundy looking dude. I can't remember his name, but the fight choreographer, Tony Leung, he wanted to see what I could do. This is in the morning, so I'm doing backflips and leg sweeps and stuff like that. And then we started doing the fight scenes. They kept adding to it and making it longer and longer. My fight scene was just supposed to be in the morning. Everybody else, all the actors stood around in wardrobe and makeup all day and just watched me in the ring. And they made the fight scene so long that that was the whole day. You know, they wrapped when they were done filming me, and nobody else filmed that day. So I thought that was really cool. I was able to impress Tony Leung with, you know, being able to do a nip up and a backhand spring and whatever I was able to throw into the fight. He liked that. And so then that got me future work as well, because after, no, that was Super Fights. You said Blood Moon. Damn, that was Super Fights. And then I did Blood Moon. Sorry. Well, now I got to try and make this short. Blood Moon, that's how I got the thing for Blood Moon, was because Super Fights. Same crew, Keith Strandberg, Keith Vitale, those guys, and Tony Leung, and it was in North Carolina. We filmed this at Carico Studios, and man, I had a great time working with that dude. I can't remember his name right now. Damien Dandroff, the guy that I did the fight scene with. Anyway, he went on to have quite a career in the action movies after that. But I loved the fight scene, and it was awesome. One memory I have of that. Oh, a couple. Here's one that I'll share. I'll straight to the best memory, the most ridiculous one. I'm supposed to be with this girl making out in my own bar. Throwing her up on the pinball machine, taking her top off. They want me to take her bra off and really be going at it. And the bad guy comes in and we end up fighting, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. And right before we shoot, the girl goes, well, here, give me a hug first. I know you, because we hadn't met. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna hug you. Dude, I'm like 26 years old. I was so green and so young. I didn't have the balls to tell them that I didn't know how to undo a bra. So we're like, action, making out. And I'm like, I'm trying to undo the bra, and I'm trying to undo the bra, and it won't come out. And I'm trying to pull on it and shit. And after a while, I go, cut. What happened? I'm like, oh, I'll get it. We did a couple of cuts, and she's even trying to tell me, like, you squeeze it together and lift up, just so you know. I said, okay, yeah, I'll get it. I just, whatever. I wasn't even listening to her because I was so big-headed, so stubborn and shit, and never did get the boobies out, you know, which they wanted for the movie. And but I did enjoy the fight scene, though. And, you know, I make up for it by groping over her shirt as much as I could.
Now, you mentioned earlier your marijuana products. Do you want to remind people as we close off here where they could purchase?
RBD CBD is where you go to get the best products. It's all CBD right now. I'll be dealing with marijuana products in 2021, and that'll be in states where it's legal by the state to do that. But I have the best CBD products. A lot of people are concerned because they say there's a lot of stuff. They don't know if they can trust it or not. Dude, trust this shit right here, because I got the best pain cream that I've ever used. And I tried and sampled all kinds of products before I came up with my own. I got CBD flower. I got tinctures, 3,000 milligram tinctures you put under your tongue. A lot of people are getting great results with just either anxieties, helping them sleep, just feeling more comfortable socially, whatever. CBD flower, RVD rolling papers. We just got gummies, CBD gummies, and we're going to be getting, vape pens soon, both CBD and THC. And we're always adding new products. We got 3 different sizes and pain creams. So RVD CBD, get it after you love it. Write a review, because I got to tell you, read the reviews first. People are they're so thankful, and they give me so much energy back for helping their lives and helping them with pain. So that's my goal. We're helping a lot of people now. RVDCBD.com, and you can follow me everywhere at The Real RVD. Hey, okay.